Welcome back, everybody. This is Eric here with Iraq Veteran 8888. I've got a very special video here for you today. I've got a guest with me, Mr. Mike Collins. How you doing?
I'm doing fine. I appreciate you having me on.
Absolutely. I appreciate you coming, making time in your busy campaign schedule to come and talk to me.
Yeah, well, you know, right now we're at the end of a campaign. We're in a runoff, and we've been actually out on our district tour. We've got 18 counties in this district, and I had just so happened to be in the trucking business, so we have an 06 379 Peterbilt with an extended hood on it, and we've been going all over the district visiting folks.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it's been going well.
So you're running for House of Representatives here in District 10?
We are. You know, and the neat thing about this district, the 10th district is an open seat. So the incumbent's not running for re-election, so we're going to get someone new to represent us in Washington, D.C. in 2023.
I'm telling you, you know, we have been going through such a scary time as a country, and it's refreshing to see principled people who really care about our nation, you know, stepping up and running for office. And, you know, we've seen so many crazy things happening. I mean, when you're paying attention to the way that these runoffs are occurring, not the runoffs, but the primaries, and you start seeing the people that are getting in, and in some cases, certain states, it's pretty telling. I mean, there seems to be a red wave occurring.
You know,
you feel that energy behind you?
Yes, I do, and I'll tell you why. You know, I've had the opportunity to speak all over this country with various other candidates and at various events. I mean, from Arizona to Ohio to the Carolinas. There are a number of us out there, people that are not looking for careers in Washington, that we are just solid, conservative outsiders who want our America First agenda back, who want to protect our constitutional rights at all cost, period. And then when we get this country back on track, then we're going to come back home. We're going to do our duty, and then we're going to leave. We're not going to be up there forever. And you're going to see a huge red wave coming in November. I can assure you of that.
That's awesome. So you're a gun guy. You love firearms, obviously.
We do. And I am a big proponent of the Second Amendment. I am absolutely sure that it is absolute when it was written, not to be infringed upon. And when you take things like what are going on today, that is just step-by-step process in order for you to get your guns taken away. And, you know, I think it's amazing, too, the fact that here we are arming up Ukrainian citizens over there with automatic weapons to defend themselves, and we're talking about taking our guns away from ours. It doesn't even make common sense.
I mean, I'm sure you've seen all this crazy rhetoric that's been going on in the news and all the stuff they're talking about, and this bipartisan, you know, gun control that they're trying to push through the Senate. And, you know, Mitch McConnell has kind of gotten wet feet, and a few others that are supposed to have our backs. And there's some 10 Republicans that are kind of, you know, turning the cheek a little bit.
They're caving.
What do you think about that?
They're caving. There's no other way you can put that. And that's what we're looking to get rid of. That's what we've been so sick of as a country. How many times have we given the Republicans the majority and it be squandered? Now they took advantage of it way back in 94 and balanced the budget and made Clinton do some things like welfare reform. But since we give them the majority, they squander it and they roll over. And I am so tired of sending Republicans to Washington who talk one way, and when they get up there, it's this go along, hey, what's the party for the night or whatever, what do we got going on? I don't want that anymore. I want somebody that really wants to go up there and stand up, and by God, if they send you home in 2 years, man, at least you come home with your head held high and your principles still intact.
That's right. So how long have you lived in Georgia? You been here your whole life?
You know, I was born and raised probably about 10 miles from where we're sitting right now.
Wow. And
then about 20 years ago, my wife and I, we moved around the world. We went from the west side of Butts County to the east side.
Oh.
we actually moved across the railroad tracks. So,
that's a big move, huh?
Yeah, it took me all day to do that.
You know, I've lived in Georgia my whole life as well. Yeah. I was born in Ellenwood, and you know, lived in Metro Atlanta for a long time, and went and lived with my father in Noonan, Thigpen Road, way out towards Franklin. You know where that's out. big old long stretch of road out there. So I kind of got a little bit of both growing up. I got to see what people go through in the inner cities as well as, the country life. And you can see, based on where you pulled up, that I kind of prefer being out in the woods a little bit.
Ellenwood used to be nothing but a railroad track crossing.
I remember. So where South Lake Mall is, that whole area, I remember when it was nothing but just woods and a dirt road. And we actually used to go shoot out there when I was a kid.
Well, I was in high school when South Lake was there, so I used to go up there and hang out all the time.
Yeah, absolutely.
That was the place, man.
I love Georgia, and I always enjoy getting to talk to people like you who've been here their whole life. You're a native of Georgia. So obviously the things that you care about are going to be in line with what I care about. And
I don't want to interrupt you, but that's kind of what, when people ask me what does the 10th district look like, I tell them it looks like me. That's what we are. We're just blue collar average people that get up every day and go to work. All we want to do is provide for our family and our kids, go to church on Sunday, and be left alone. And if you want to know what the 10th district is, that's it in a nutshell.
So how are you feeling about the way this is all going? You feel like, what's your prognosis? If you could look in a crystal ball, do you feel confident that the people have your back in this district?
We're going to win this race.
That's what I'm talking about. That's some confidence right there. I love it.
So, it's funny. We were talking earlier, and you were talking about some of the rhinos. And, when I was looking at getting into this race, because my wife and I had made a decision that we thought maybe our role was to be fundraisers and help good people get in office. Because the current congressman, we figured he'd be there forever, and so when he decided he wasn't going to run, we were talking about, well, should we get in this thing or not get in it? And they asked me, why don't you go up to Ohio? They've got a big event going on up there, and you got to pay your own way up there, but they'll let you go up there and speak. And it's to get rid of a guy named Anthony Gonzalez, a rhino that voted to impeach our president. I said, if nothing else, that sounds like a fun day anyway. And so while I was up there mingling through the crowd, everybody kept asking me what to do. And when I stood up there, I pushed my speech to the side, and I said, I want to tell you folks something first. I'm going to give my speech. We got to get rid of the guy. But I said, what y'all need to do is get involved. You need to be running. I don't care if it's for your homeowners association that won't let you fly your flag anymore, whether it's for city council or board of education. I said, we need board of education right now and we also need to go back to partisan politics where we know where you really stand. But I said, y'all need to get involved. So, of course, all the way home on Delta that night, I was scratching my head. My goodness, you told all them folks to get involved and run, and here you are running from it. So we decided to get in this thing after that.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
I think a lot of Thomas Massey. I know earlier we were talking about Thomas a little bit briefly because you'd mentioned that Dudley Brown over at NAGR, and you have you've been endorsed by NAGR.
We have, and I've met Congressman Massey before too. Stand-up guy.
He is such an awesome guy. I'm interviewing him next week over online communication, obviously, but I think Thomas is such an interesting fellow. When it comes to the Republican Party, he is certainly an outlier. I remember Trump was saying, oh, you're a third-rate politician, and that kind of hurt me a little bit because I do like Trump, but I like Massey too. And it's like when I see that discourse, I was kind of thinking, what? I mean, come on. Just because he wanted a recorded vote. Yeah. And when we look at, like you said, knowing what someone's real record really is, how are you going to know if you don't have a distinctive voting record right to have a line-by-line record of what they voted for and what they didn't? And I think Thomas Massey was very astute in his observation, like, hey, we need to have a recorded vote. We need to know exactly where people stand.
I think it goes more to your core character, too. Massey is not afraid of what he believes. And therefore, he's not afraid that if at some point what he believes sends him home, it's okay, because it's not going to change who he is. And that's the way I feel. I've been very, very fortunate in life. Now I don't have a 747 like Trump. I've been looking at buying a Cessna 182. A little bit of difference. But, we've been very blessed. I'm second generation into trucking. My wife and I, we started our own trucking company a little over 30 years ago. Our kids grew up at that office just like I did. My grandkids are down there now. Our kids and my younger brother, they're all involved and they run that place. And so we've got a great life here in Jackson, Georgia. But I tell people all the time, it's just the mere fact of being in the most regulated and taxed industry that there is in this country, that I can take what's right between these ears up here of getting beat on for 30 years, and I can take that to Congress and I can make a difference.
So the truckers are very, very highly regulated, more than the gun world?
It's the only industry in the world that I know of where you have to record what you do 24 hours a day, 7 days a week for your entire career.
Really?
You have to write it. It has to be electronic or written down. Yes.
So I know they have like the logs.
We have the logs.
Right.
Yep.
And they don't want you, driving tired, essentially.
Yeah.
Is that what that
well,
comes
yeah,
down to?
and that's fine. You've got to have rest. But the thing is, there's nobody else that has to write down off duty in the sleeper, on duty driving every day.
Wow.
Now, I mean, obviously if we were sitting here for 2 days at the house, you would just record off duty. But it's still the mere fact that you are kept with every day of your life.
Can you imagine being a truck driver right now and having to pay all that money for fuel? I mean, fuel is just absolutely crazy. I mean, all this inflation.
Yeah.
And there's this talk of us, on our way to a recession. We're already in like a soft recession, but it's going to get worse. And a lot of the analysts that I've looked at, it seems that they seem to think that by the end of the year that we could see much worse prices on fuel. I mean, like out in Hollywood right now, I've got a couple of friends of mine that still act in Hollywood, believe it or not. And they messaged me and they're like, man, I go to fill up my tank and fuel out there is like $7.50 a gallon. So we could see California level gas prices by the end of the year.
You could. And the thing about the situation is in trucking is 98% of your trucking companies are 5 trucks or less. So they're just mom and pop operations. And your truck owners that only have 1 truck right now, they're already shutting down.
They're sucking wind right now.
Yeah, because they're losing so much money that you don't want to lose money and take the chance of breaking down too. So, just take 90 days off, push your notes to the back end of the note on your truck payments, go fishing for 90 days. Or
I
shoot
think
weapons.
fishing would be a heck of a lot of fun right now.
So,
yeah, so that's some excellent sensibility that you're trying to bring to the table, right?
Yeah.
This just hard work ethic, family-run business. Your kids are taking over the business, right? I mean, isn't that got to be humbling for you to think that you grew this business and now your kids are running it? Doesn't it make you feel proud?
Well, it does, and it's a work ethic that was instilled into me by my parents and their parents. I think that's one reason. If you ever look at any single piece of our equipment, there's going to be somewhere stamped on there a little saying that says "can't, never, could," and that's been our motto forever. My grandpa always told me that can't, never, could do anything. But if you change that mentality around to where you can do anything you want to, you put your mind to it.
That's right.
And that's important. And that gets to things like even standing up for our constitutional rights.
Yeah.
Especially our Second Amendment rights that are being pounded on right now. And you talk about those 10 senators that are up there caving. And that's what they're doing. They're freaking rolling over on us right now. When what's so hard about standing up? Because I guarantee you, if you stand up and you lose, people are going to respect that. But and these people have, from what I read, 8 out of 10 have A+ ratings with the NRA. There's something that just doesn't look right there.
Yeah, it doesn't pass the smell test, does it?
No, it doesn't.
Yeah, it doesn't take an Ivy League, educated person to figure out that don't pass the smell test.
Maybe we need a different grading system.
Yeah, I agree. Or maybe we need to put people in there that actually have the principles, that we all share, and many of us view the Constitution, it is the supreme law of the land. It's our guide. It's our framework. There's a reason that we have the Constitution, that we have all these documents. There's a reason. So if we can follow up and say, hey, well, if it doesn't pass the smell test of the Constitution, then why are we trying to pass a law that we know supersedes or infringes on people's rights? And that's a scary situation. So I think what I've seen on the outside looking in, right, I'm sort of apolitical here, Mike. I'm not necessarily a Republican. I'm not a Democrat. I'm not a Libertarian. I'm kind of like, just throw that all in a blender, I suppose, right? So the way that I kind of look at things is, if I can start with the basis being the Constitution, then I know that any other decision I make, that I know I'm going to be doing the right thing by the people in terms of the way that I have my views, right? If the Second Amendment says shall not be infringed, that's pretty clear wording. Like, in terms of what our brilliant founding fathers came up with, they knew that the Second Amendment was that very crucial piece of information to put on that grocery list, right? If I'm making a list of groceries to go shopping, I'm going to put the most important stuff at the top of the list that I don't want to forget: the milk, the bread, the eggs, the building blocks of your meal, right? Those first amendments to the Constitution, those first items, those were the building blocks of freedom. They knew that being able to say what you wanted and being able to protect what you said were two of the most crucial things in our American Republic. They knew it. And it's the most clear constitutional language in the entire document. Shall not be infringed. It doesn't say shall not be infringed anywhere else in the entire document but the Second Amendment.
Right there. And the even more ironic thing, I guess, for lack of better words, about this is, why are we even talking about this? We're talking about this because of a tragedy, and that was a tragedy. A madman, a murderer, and he's dead now. We're aiming at the wrong thing. Guns were not the issue, and they're not the issue now. If that was so, then we'd have outlawed box cutters after 9/11.
Or box trucks.
Yeah.
Or, vehicles. Yeah. Anyone that wants to commit evil is going to find a way.
They're going to commit evil. And we're not setting our focus on what really needs to happen. First of all, they need to secure those schools. That's first and foremost. I mean, my gosh, you can't walk in an airport now without going through metal detectors and everything being searched with your shoes off. And the person on the other side of that thing has got a weapon on their side. We need to secure our schools. We need to arm and teach our administrators how to use weapons if they don't know how to. But we need to bring God back into our schools.
I agree.
Man, we're missing that.
I agree.
We don't have prayer in schools. We don't even have God on TV anymore, hardly. And when there's no moral fiber, no faith that you have of a higher power, then you really have no value of life, of anything.
I think that there's a lot of deep underlying moral issues that are occurring within our society, not only moral issues, but these mental issues. And you notice, like in the 90s, it was funny when you mentioned Bill Clinton, because I was thinking that was the only thing good that Bill Clinton ever did was balance the budget. At least he did that. Yeah. Now that he did do. But when you look at the 90s, what also happened? They started pumping all these kids full of anti-behavioral medicines and all this random stuff. And sometimes it's hard to talk about it. People don't want to talk about it. It's sensitive. I get it. But I would love to see the data and all of the research performed that would correlate, let's just say, shootings, right? You look at Columbine and all of the stuff that started happening in the 90s and getting up till now. We didn't really have all of these random school shootings until these kids started getting hopped up on all these meds, and the pharmaceutical companies was trying to come up with every little random pill for every little random problem that little junior might have. Yeah. But really, what the true cure was a loving father and mother to take care of them and raise them and teach them right from wrong and show them love and compassion in the household and just values, Christian values, principles that we learned from our grandparents and our great-grandparents and our fathers that we can teach to our kids, and they end up being like we are. I mean, but in the 90s, all these drugs they started pumping these kids full of, and I'm telling you, has something to do with all of that stuff. There has to be a greater amount of research done on the way that those data points can correlate to each other.
And you take one more piece of this puzzle, and that is the way that you look at how we have allowed mob rule in this country, and it BLM or Antifa, whoever it is, just a senseless disregard for law and order. And then you pile that on top of defunding our police and our first responders, and we don't respect them. We don't try to promote them, and that's the other part of this problem. There is a lack of respect across the board, and until we get back to a nation of laws, to a nation under God, and we protect our God-given rights, because that's what they are, this Constitution, period, then you're going to see this thing continue to go over the cliff.
I agree. And I feel like it's just been this complete de-evolution into chaos. And it's a very scary time, you know.
It's into everything.
Yeah.
I mean, now what are we talking about? Pronouns and want to be called this versus that? I'm sorry. They dig your bones up in 100 years from now, they're going to identify you as either male or female.
Yeah.
I mean, there's so much of this that's interrelated, but yet the first thing that they go after is my Second Amendment and my gun rights.
You know, it really drives me nuts when you look at all these folks on the media, you know, especially mainstream media, you know, whether it's social media, big tech. I mean, look at all these large companies,
Mm-hmm.
right? Whether it's big tech or whether it's just, you know, big pharma or just big companies in general, big business in general, right? It's like there's this unified message that people like you and I who grew up in this wonderful state our whole lives and worked hard our entire lives for everything that we have, that we're somehow deplorables, that we're somehow racists and bigots, and that, you know, we're every evil name in the book and we're in a flyover state. And even Stacey Abrams, like in the last election, said, oh, we don't need farmers. We can just go to the grocery store and buy food. Like, what?
Yeah.
Like, lady, you do realize that you have to grow the food before you can eat the food. Yeah. It's just blatant disrespect for an honest, hardworking man's lifestyle.
It is.
And it's terrible. I mean, how can you expect anybody to feel any different than when they've been called these evil names for all this time? And after a while, you kind of start thinking, am I that?
Yeah.
You know,
and that's
terrible,
what they
isn't
want.
it?
It's a conditioning thing. What we have been treated with and what the federal government especially has been doing is you take with COVID and just shutting down everything, you know, to where you couldn't even go to your church on Sunday, but you could go to Walmart now. That's okay. Yeah. But it's just a conditioning to, at some point, when you get down to where there's mask mandates or vaccine mandates, whatever, you know, people just say, man, forget it. My God, what do you want me to do? Just tell me, then leave me alone. Just tell me what you want. And we've got to fight that. We've got to make sure that we fight that.
That's scary.
Yeah, it's scary.
It really is scary. I mean, when you look at the way things just went so far south, I mean, literally, 2 weeks to slow the spread. And we see what that happened.
Yeah.
I mean, and I just saw an article literally pop up on my phone where Fauci just tested positive for COVID. Literally, like it's literally like an hour ago.
Fauci needs to be investigated and Fauci needs to be in jail. That's where Fauci needs to be. He can take his COVID to jail with him if he wants.
Ooh,
but COVID. Anybody prior to COVID, if you just look back, Eric, this place was humming like a sewing machine, and that's what scared them. You had control of your destiny. People were making money. I mean, how many people buying cars, taking their families on vacations?
Yeah.
And buying new houses, and things were going, and America was growing.
You know what else? Unity.
Yeah.
We were achieving unity, right? For a first time in a very long time, people from so many walks of life were getting along so well.
Yeah.
And everyone was just doing their thing and living life and being happy and supporting each other. And dare I say, starting to approach some form of harmony, right?
Yeah.
And that is the absolute last thing that Democrats want. They want chaos. They want division. They want to be able to put people in their two separate little spots and then point fingers and just, they don't want discourse into conversation. Because when you have this conversation, you know, people go, well, wait a minute. We agree on a lot more than we disagree on. Yeah, there's a D next to your name. There's an R next to yours. But at the end of the day, why are we arguing about all this petty things that they're trying to divide us over? Yeah. We were achieving unity, and we were pretty close to, you know, kind of getting on the mountaintop of that. And, of course, they had to throw a wrench in the plans.
Oh, yeah. Well, it was one of the things that Trump did, the Trump administration did very well, and that was the unemployment was the lowest it had ever been with all demographics. So everybody was rising. Everybody was making money. And that's a problem on the Democrat side. There's always got to be a crisis.
Oh,
and there's always got to be a victim. And you didn't have that.
And they always have to have the answer. So you see how that works.
Oh, yeah,
you know?
yeah. So.
It's always their solution, though. See, what do you think about Ron DeSantis? You like him?
Oh yeah, I think he's done a very good job down in Florida. As a matter of fact, you go to you talk about the bills that they've been passing. Now they just passed a bill down there where they're going out. It's called the Sentinel. I don't know if you've heard of that, where they're approaching veterans and retired military people, retired officers. They're training them and they're putting them in these schools for security.
Well, I know Georgia's a campus carry state, and that's good. But I would really love to see, especially at a state level and everything, I would love to see more happening that puts more armed veterans and armed former LEOs in our schools and providing more resources. I mean, I know that Georgia is relatively on the forefront of making sure that our schools are safe.
Yeah.
I mean, campus carry was a huge deal. It was very controversial. But we saw that we got campus carry passed.
And it's fine.
And it's been holding up great.
Yep.
My wife actually goes to school right up here. She carries her SIG P365 on her hip. And in fact, her professor carries his gun right on his hip in class. And everything's great, and everyone's safe.
If you had a retired veteran in the school, armed, man, don't you think somebody like that little sucker out there in Texas, he'd think twice before he ever even approached the block that school was on.
That's right.
Because that ex-military person, man, they're itching for somebody to come by and try to mess with the school. And that's what you want.
Let me tell you something else that's more deep underlying meaning too, is that a lot of us veterans, we get home and we don't know what our place in society is.
Yeah.
A lot of veterans are suffering, right? Whether it's just that they don't feel like they fit in society, they don't know what they should do for a living. And I'm telling you, you want to help a lot of these veterans that are having mild episodes of post-traumatic stress syndrome. You put them in a situation where they feel like their training and all their experiences can benefit society. They will. I'm not going to say it's a magic cure, but it will help for them to return to service in a way.
Oh, amen.
And it'll make them feel like they belong. Give them a place
Gives
to
them a
exist.
mission.
Yeah, give them a mission.
Yeah.
That's what they need. They need a mission. They don't want to feel like society has turned their back on them.
I think DeSantis has done a pretty good job down there in Florida. I tell you, he doesn't take anything. He's going to give it right back to you if you want to dish it out to him. So
that's right. I agree. Well, I've really enjoyed our talk, Mike, and I really appreciate you taking the time to come by and have a chat with me. And I'm rooting for you. And I hope that my viewers will root for you as well. And make sure you follow him on Twitter. I'm going to put all of his information and particulars down in the description box below. If you want to support Mike's campaign, definitely do so. He is endorsed by NAGR. And, of course, I know Dudley is a fantastic judge of character. And I've been following Mike on Twitter, and I've been really diving into some of his posts. And I really enjoy what you have to say. And I think that you're a very principled person, and I think you're the right man for District 10. And I hope you pull through, and you've got my full support.
Well, I appreciate that. We're going to win this race, and you're going to get some good, solid, conservative business people in Washington this time around.
That's right. Well, I'm telling you right now, the way things are being ran right now definitely ain't no kind of business.
No.
I don't know what kind of person would shut down the Keystone Pipeline to think that's actually a good idea. That ain't a business person to me.
No, and I think that's been one of the key reasons that inflation has just gone sky high. Besides the fact that they don't know how to quit spending our money up there. And we've got Republicans up there like spend your dollar just as bad as a Democrat does. So we can't throw that all on the Democrats.
Thank you.
But there is a group of us going up there. I'm telling you.
That's right.
There's a few up there like Massey, and that's what every time I talk to them, I tell them just hold the line.
You have my respect for admitting that, because a lot of folks are afraid to admit when the Democrats might be right about something, or when your own people are doing something that might be a little off. It doesn't pass the smell test. And that's one thing I've always appreciated about Thomas Massey is he always tells you like it is. You'll always know where he's coming from. And, I see that same honesty in you, Mike. So I appreciate you having the courage to admit that, because it takes a lot to admit when your own people are wrong. Sometimes it takes more courage to stand up to your own people than it does the enemy.
Yeah.
And that's what we need. We need people that aren't afraid to pull someone in the aisle and say, you really want to do that?
Yeah.
So
well, good.
I appreciate you for that.
Appreciate it. Look forward to serving you in Congress.
Absolutely. Awesome. Have a great day. Hey, thank you guys for tuning in today. I hope you all enjoyed this video. Check out the links in the description box below. If you want to support Mike, I would definitely, I'm going to be making a donation to his campaign. I want to support him in any way I can. And have yourselves a great day. Thanks for tuning in. Many more videos on the way. We'll see you soon.